Happy Halloween, guys! Soapalord here, back in with another action figure review. Today, I'm very happy to be bringing you guys a review of the Figura Obscura Frankenstein's creature from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That said, this of course is brought to us by the fine folks over at Horsemen Studios, and yes, you heard me right. I said Frankenstein's creature, not monster. Because we don't want to get him confused with this guy right here, good old Boris Karloff from the fine folks over at NECA Toys. And I'm actually quite surprised as to how close in height these two are. But yeah, this guy is Frankenstein's monster. This guy is Frankenstein's creature. Because Four Horsemen, being the sly devils they are, decided to pick a design for the Frankenstein creation, we'll say, that is a lot closer to the original source material by Little Miss Mary Shelley. So that's why he is not a big hulking monster Frankenstein, and that's why he does not look like the flat top, platform shoes wearing Frankenstein that most of us are very well familiar with. That said, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, why don't we cut right to the chase and get into the meat and taters of this review and take a look-see at all the creature has to offer in terms of accessories, starting off with a bit of a Clip Notes, Spark Notes version of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in mini comic form. I don't know if this is the front or if this is the front, because I am a self-certified bozo, but very nice artwork by Mr. Nate Barch on the inside here. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I hope these continue. I want to say they also included like little artifact booklets with the Gods of Egypt 2-pack, and they started doing this with the Mask of the Red Death, if I'm not mistaken. He was the first one to have something like that. I think it would have been more helpful if the Monkey King came with one, because a lot of people didn't know what the heck his deal was. And of course, Jacob Marley came with a part of A Christmas Carol. So, that said, as far as actual accessories for this figure goes, we got some alt hands here. Kind of creepy hands. I wish this hand was more like this hand, if I had to be a nitpicker, but, you know, gets the job done. Some creepy walking around the lab hands. Let's get a pair of bare feet. I'm going to take his shoes off. He's dead, so I don't think he'll get cold feet exactly. We also get a couple of extra heads for him. If you don't like the heavy metal hair like my good buddy Jess Monesto too. He makes me laugh. You can use one of these heads instead. I personally like this one because he looks a little disgruntled. Even though in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Frankenstein is not a self-certified bozo like your boy. So, some food for thought there. That said, we also get some shackles. These are new for him. So we get these smaller ones that go around his wrists. And the chains are not connected this time around. That said, we also get a pair of larger ones. Right here and here. These go around his ankles. We also get a swappable loincloth piece, belt piece, whatever you want to call it. Almost looks like a more weathered and aged version of the Anubis and Bastet soft goods, but it is indeed a plastic piece. You can see the hole dremeled out the top there. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take his pants off. Not kidding. Take his pants off, take his feet off. Well, I guess take the feet off before I take off the pants. Make life a little easier. Is swap this on. Actually, take his torso off. There's a little, like, on Mythic Legions, it's like the loincloth plug-in piece, but on this guy, it's just a piece to kind of bulk out his crotch, we'll see. You take that off, you slip this on, put everything back together, put the bare feet on. You can strap him to this bad boy right here. Comes with the freaking table. With straps and little loop-de-loops you can put the chains from the shackles in. This table is articulated, by the way. but it is a very tight hinge, which I appreciate, but don't grab it in the wrong way. You could snap this thing off down here. You don't want to break that. And be careful with this base plugging it in too. I had a heck of a time getting that in there, but it's in there nice and solid. But there you go. There is the table. The straps do unlatch from the side. I heated mine up the first time around. First couple of times actually. So they were a little easier to put on afterwards. That said, that's not all you get. You get more. There's more? Yes, there is. Get a head in a jar, because why not? And this is no ordinary head. This is actually the Hagdon head, but it's painted in these zombie colors. Actually matches him, but it's a little small to put on him. I think that's pretty freaking rad. I'm going to have to find a use for that and just pop a skull in there or something. Speaking of skulls, you get one of those in a jar too. Take this off. It's a 2.0 skull. I will say, I do wish they had the neck pegs on these pieces. I know why. These are hard plastic and they'd probably snap on somebody's. But that's what a hairdryer and soap is for, folks. Helps loosen things up, or at least make them easier to pop together. You also get a little skeleton in here in a jar. It's waving hello to you. These are from, this is from the Ilithia figure initially, but they did use it on the web store homage from Masters of the Universe. Okiatos is his name, I believe. Then we get 3 books. These are reused from Marley. We get this one, we get this one, and last but not least, we get this one. This one has the little latch on there. But pretty cool. They do all fit with those 3 jars on this little teeny table right here, which you can adjust and have it like this instead if you want. But again, the base was a little tricky to get on here. But if you don't want to use those, you also get this electrode setup, which I'm going to tell you right now is a bit of a pain in the nuts set up initially because I couldn't tell where the wire went. But you got this piece here, which is not broken, I swear. It's just, it's got a loose tab on mine, and that's probably for the best. Stays in there. It came assembled, but the tab does have a little bit of wiggle room in there, so you know, be mindful of that when you're opening it. But you do get these 3 little I don't know, electrode thingies, and then you get this big one on the end here. And they're all hooked together by this wire, which is just a twist tie. Ironically, thicker than the wire they use in their soft goods. They use a wire like this in the soft goods. The stuff might actually pose worth a darn, but that's just my 2 cents on that. But, you know, it's a little tricky to weave through these things, but once you get it done, you get it done. I did have to trim a little bit of mine off because some of the plastic coating on the outside of the wire got kinked up when I was doing it. I say when I was doing it. Mr. Brian, aka my dad, aka the old man, did it because I can't see well enough to do that type of crap. And based off who collects 4 Horsemen product, a lot of the community probably had a hard time with that too. So, you know, maybe include some instructions next time, guys. Taking a closer look at the creature himself. He looks pretty cool with his coat here. I will say, the long hair thing is 50-50 for me. I could take it or leave it. I personally prefer more like a mullet length hair with Frankenstein if he's going to have hair. But I did have a book when I was in middle school, I think, that had a really gnarly, like jacked version of Frankenstein with a fur cape and long hair just like this. So it kind of reminds me of that. That said, so we can cover the articulation, I'm actually going to pop his noggin off. I'm going to pop his arms back here. And I recommend bending the elbows a little bit to do this. And we are going to slip this coat off. Very carefully. Because I'll show you in just a moment. There we go. Straighten his arm back out. And we'll just lie him down for the time being. This coat has a very thin piece of rubber right there. It's like a, well, PVC rubber, whatever you want to call it. Very, very thin right here. So be careful when you're taking this off, you don't tear that. I guess if you do, it ain't the end of the world. It's not a major piece that's connecting anything. But, you know, be mindful of that. You could rip it. I don't know why they made that so thin, but whatever. So we are going to pop the disgruntled head on him. It'll go on. So we can take a look-see at the articulation right after we set him to the side and look at the glorious packaging this thing comes with. Because in true Figura Obscura fashion, Four Horsemen went all out with the packaging. Got a nice big image on the front there. And then you got some more artwork on the back. And then, of course, we take this off. We get this niftaroonie Mad Scientist Laboratory backdrop. For those of you Cartoon Network kids like yours truly, this is the closest thing to a Dexter's Lab playset we're probably going to have ever, because nobody wants to touch, you know, cool licenses. Everyone just wants to make freaking Ninja Turtles all the time. No problem with that, but, you know, fatigue is a thing, apparently. But there you go. Bringing the creature back in here. I will say, I don't mind these soft goods pants at all, especially since there's no freaking wires in them. But this twine rope, I am not the biggest fan of, especially on this side. On mine, it's like all starting to unravel, so I'm going to have to have Mr. Brian, aka my dad, aka the old man, super glue that so it doesn't fray and whatnot. On both sides, probably. So that is that, but this body, as far as I could tell, is all new sculpt. I don't think any of this is reused. The hands are not reused. The arms, the torso, the legs, these pumped up kicks, which aren't as pumped up as Boris Karloff's, but just enough. So as far as his articulation is concerned, he does have a disc hinge in the head. So you can look up, back down. Can look up and tilt and rotate on that ball. But I will tell you, the alt heads are very tight in comparison to the other one, so be mindful of that. Shoulders will go out to the side, back down, rotate all the way around. It's got a swivel in the elbow with a hinge. It's like kind of detented, so it's not like the hardest thing to move, but it's not the loosest thing either. He's got swivel hinge wrists. I did heat up the wrists a couple of times, but I haven't had any trouble with them. Knock on wood, it stays that way. I will mention his torso does not have the peg holes on the back for pauldrons and whatnot, so you'll have to Dremel those in yourself. I don't think a lot of people really mind that, though, myself included, because I'm never going to put pauldrons on this guy. I don't know why I would need to do that. His torso can lean back really far, can lean forward really far. He can tilt a little bit, and he does have some rotation in there, so that's cool. His hips will kick. Tilt him a little bit. Out to the side. Again, he's got a fully sculpted, like, Frankenstein leg under there, but I don't want to waste your time taking his pants off. That's kind of weird if you're into that. Kick forward and back as well. He's got a thigh cut. He's got a single knee. Which on mine, the left one's a little looser than the right, but it's not like floppy, like I'm gonna hold him by this joint. It's not like, it's not bending at a 90-degree angle, so it's not loose enough to worry about. And it could stiffen up over time too. He does have a swivel in the knee, below the knee hinge, and then he's got the ball hinge feet that will rotate, hinge forward, back, and as well as pivot. And he does actually get a little, well, he's got a ball hand, so it doesn't really matter. But he does have a pretty decent pivot for having big feet. And he does have peg holes at the bottom of his feet. Right? Yeah. You want to throw him on a stand. But that's old Frankenstein's creature, not to be confused with the monster, in a nutshell. I like this figure a lot. Is he better than Anubis? That's a tough one. I've always had a thing for Frankenstein's monster, not so much the creature, the skinny, more overlord proportion version. But Anubis is a character I've wanted to figure out for a long time, and the Four Horsemen one is really cool. So Figura Obscura of the year is still up in the air right now, unless the Christmas Carol box set that I feel is inevitable and coming out in December is all that in a bag of Cheetos, then these guys won't have a chance at all. But you never know. You never know, man. But if you are looking for a more book-accurate version of Dr. Frankenstein's sick and twisted creation from the Mary Shelley novel, then this is definitely your best bet at that, because I don't think anyone else has tackled this character this close to that original source material before. So with that being said, it is time now that we move right along and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here's good old Frankenstein's creature, not monster, alongside the other two Halloween-y offerings from the Figura Obscura line by the fine folks over at Four Horsemen Studios. Got the Headless Horseman to the left, and the Mask of the Red Death to the right. And of the three, Headless Horseman is obviously my favorite character, but as far as the figures go, well, I think that Frankenstein's creature here is probably the most fun, because you darn near get a playset with him. Mask of the Red Death is where my loyalties lie. He's just more my speed, more my taste. Can't beat a cool-looking Grim Reaper character like that. That said, we got Washington Irving, Mary Shelley, and Edgar Allan Poe represented here. I think next, Halloween-y Figura Obscura, we get a Bram Stoker-style Dracula, which may seem odd because we do get a lot of vampires in the Mythic Legions line by Four Horsemen, but if you are familiar with the source material of Bram Stoker's Dracula, you know that he looks absolutely nothing like that, or even the Bela Lugosi version, much like the Frankenstein's creature we have here. So, getting these two out of the way. So we can bring in our two regulars. Brother Mandibilith from the Mythic Legions Advent of Decay wave. Kind of fitting, since Frankenstein's creature here is made up of corpses, after all. And the infamous Living Spawn, who's not towering over everyone today, because on top of the fact that Frankenstein's creature is tall and lanky, to begin with, he's got his Paul Stanley platform kicks to bump him up a little bit. That said, a little side note, if we're not going to get another literature, whatever you want to call it, character in Figura Obscura next Halloween, can we maybe get a cryptid? I mean, it's a bit on the nose, but I'd love to see their take on a Jersey Devil, particularly utilizing the Red Death body buck. So, with that being said, it is time now that we strap this guy down and wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and if a super cool Frankenstein's monster figure is what you are looking for, then this may not be the thing for you. However, if a super cool Frankenstein's creature is the thing you're looking for, then look no further than this Figura Obscura offering from the fine folks over at Four Horsemen Studios. Because as I mentioned earlier, this is a much more tried and true representation of how the quote-unquote creature appeared in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein novel, as opposed to the Boris Karloff Frankenstein's monster we've all come to know and love over the years. So if that's more or less what you're looking for, NECA has a really solid Frankenstein's monster figure based off the Boris Karloff representation. However, if you want something that's a lot closer to the original, quote-unquote, original source material by Mary Shelley, then the fine folks over at Four Horsemen Studio got you covered. That said, I really like this thing. I think it's really cool. A bit of a pain to set up, not gonna lie, but once you get it set up, it looks freaking awesome. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.